All right, let me get more presentable here. I'll take those headphones off and say welcome to everybody for ACIM Talks with Reverend Jim. It's Monday, April 22nd, and thank you all for being here. As usual, I look forward to our time together. And, last week we were kind of talking about celebrating the 1 year anniversary of ACIM Talks. And it's so interesting that when I had the idea for doing this program, I said, well, it's one of those where I'm going to kind of take my hands off of it, get things started, and then let spirit decide where we're going. I knew it wouldn't be just like a regular Course in Miracles study group. And that's why I kind of wanted this kind of advanced program so we could stretch out ACIM into other areas beyond the border of the book cover and the pages within the book itself. I've always been fascinated with that statement. This is but one version of the universal curriculum. And I just want to say how appreciative I am to you guys for helping to just steer all the different ACIM related topics, and indeed even a deeper interpretation of the book itself. So I guess I just wanted to say thank yous are in order, and I'm very pleased with how this program has gone over the last year or so. Any sharing, comments, criticism, observations that any of you would like to make, my friends?
No, I'm grateful.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. Me too. We're expecting a couple more people, but if it's okay, why don't we go ahead and get our agenda started tonight? And tonight we're going to take a look at our Oracle text reading that we're doing of A Course in Miracles, and that consists of I don't know, what do? We had 31 chapters, divided them into groups of 5. So, and then we let Spirit tell us which chapter to pick out of each group, remember?
Yep.
And so we're still making our way through our first selection in group, which was group 1. And we chose chapter 3, the innocent perception. So I'd like to spend a few minutes tonight continuing with that reading. And then for the other part of the evening, we could get back to our study of unity and A Course in Miracles. And we were going to continue. We had made it all the way to page 3, A Matter of Semantics. So without further ado, I think we ought to just get on into it, okay?
Yep.
We're first in A Course in Miracles text, chapter 3, and we were in section Roman numeral 3 called Perception versus Knowledge. So we've got 7 paragraphs here. We completed the first 2 last week, and we were to start on paragraph 3 if I've got it right. So, yeah, I was just reflecting. Kathleen wasn't here last night. I'm glad she's back. We're on page 40 in the text of A Course in Miracles. But maybe kind of get us in the mood here, group. We read what's this? What do we know about perception versus knowledge so far?
Oh, perception is temporary. Knowledge is true. It's the big doesn't change. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, definitely one of the attributes of knowledge. Well, let's talk about what happened to knowledge. I mean, at one time, knowledge was all there was, and then there's perception. Tell us a little bit about what you know about perception.
It's of the world of duality.
Okay. Somebody say a little more. Well, what's duality?
Where oneness no longer exists. There's opposites.
So something happened?
It happened after the separation.
All right. So separation threw us into duality, where there was more than one thing. And so that's in discord with the idea of knowledge, where there's only one thing. In paragraph well, I guess we can leave it with the first two paragraphs in our background on this. Tell us that perception came into being with the tiny mad idea of separation. And so that created more than one way of seeing things, of looking at things, of experiencing things. In short, it was the beginning of all our problems. What do you think? Is that good?
Yeah, there can be no conflict when there's just oneness.
Yeah.
When there's, yeah.
And to me, one of the most significant signs that it can't be knowledge is when you have questions. Remember, Jesus started to talk about questionings. Questions can only be associated with perception. In knowledge, there are no questions, only certainty. So how's that for summarization of the first couple of paragraphs? Is that okay?
Yep. Thank you.
So let's get our readers going here. I've got Kathleen as reader 1, Joan is reader 2, Dee is 3, and I'll be 4. By the way, I just remembered, Ron said he would be here only sporadically for the next few weeks. I think it's his son or maybe his grandson has some activities coming up. So he's out practicing the course if he's not here, okay?
Okay, thanks.
At any rate, we're on paragraph 3 on page 40, and our first reader is Kathleen.
Sure.
And Kathleen, do a couple of paragraphs if you would.
Okay. The questioning mind perceives itself in time and therefore looks for future answers. The closed mind, The closed mind believes the future and the present will be the same. This establishes a seemingly stable state that is usually an attempt to counteract an underlying fear that the future will be worse than the present. This fear inhibits the tendency to question at all.
Mhm.
True vision is the natural perception of spiritual sight, but it is still a correction rather than a fact. Spiritual sight is symbolic and therefore not a device for knowing. It is, however, a means of right perception, which brings it into the proper domain of the miracle. A vision of God would be a miracle rather than a revelation. The fact that perception is involved at all removes the experience from the realm of knowledge. That is why visions, however holy, do not last.
Whoa. Comments? How about paragraph 3, distinguishing the questioning mind versus the closed mind? Well, what are you getting out of those sentences? The questioning mind perceives itself in time and therefore looks for future answers, and the closed mind believes the future and present will stay the same. What does that say about the motivations for being open or closed mind? I'm sorry, the motivations for the questioning mind or the closed mind. What would motivate the questioning mind? That should be pretty easy. Uncertainty.
Not knowing.
The
Yeah.
desire to know.
Uncertainty. Is that good?
Yep.
Mhm.
And what does Jesus say would motivate the closed mind? What's the motivation for a closed mind?
Fear.
Fear.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. And so what I'm seeing is they both are forms of fear.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Neither one of them, yeah. Yeah, they're the duality.
yes,
They represent the duality that either side of it is not truth.
correct.
they're
And
still-
yet notice, I'm sorry, comment. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they're still functioning in the illusion.
Which illusion do you like better?
Yeah.
Right.
They're both illusions. So it isn't a choice of truth versus false. There are
No.
different versions of false.
Yes. Which one do you like better, A or B?
Which fake do you like better? Another ego trick, if you will, a deception. It's
So
kind
Right.
it doesn't just point to I think we originally said that only the ego questions, but here it's saying it could also not question, and it's of the ego.
that's true, and I guess a good point that both of these are sides of the ego
Yeah.
because neither of them know. They're like protections uh, in the area of fear.
Yeah.
So we make up constructs for protection. Either we are more open and ask questions, or we close around a particular perception so we can kind of constrict around it and don't want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
What about sentence 4? True vision is the natural perception of spiritual sight, but doesn't it then kind of, I don't know if diminish is the right word, but it says spiritual sight isn't really it either.
Well, it's saying it's still within perception, but
Yes.
it's true perception.
So spiritual sight is not knowledge.
No.
What do you mean by spiritual sight?
I would say that, see here, let me just go to the extreme. Spiritual sight is not knowledge. Even the sight we get, the visions from the Holy Spirit, even, are still not in the realm of knowledge. They're still in the realm of perception. Even spiritual vision, even this great gift from the Holy Spirit, is still not knowledge yet. But what is it about?
True. Yeah.
Well, it brings you into the realm where God can communicate with you. It brings you into the it raises your consciousness.
Yes, it's a step in the right direction to knowledge. And
Right.
that's why this makes it an illusion, still an illusion, but this is something the Holy Spirit can use to give us our answer, our wishes, the restoration of our minds, the remembrance of God and who we are. So we're trapped in perception. So what does the Holy Spirit use? Uses the trap as the way to the solution. Who's following me?
Mm-hmm.
Is that brilliant or what? He doesn't destroy our stuff, but rather transforms the purpose of our stuff. Illusions came from separation, and the audacity to be able to use the separation device as the healing device. So what is it the Holy Spirit does for us relative to our perceptions?
Well, it's breaking down the illusions and bringing us closer to the truth.
But I would just say, I'm not sure he's breaking down the illusion.
Well, replacing them.
He's repurposing. Yes, replacing. Look at the principles of miracles. That's back chapter 1, isn't it? And all I'm saying, those 50 miracle principles, right?
Yep.
Right.
And I don't know, somebody, Kathleen, read number 7.
Okay. The miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first.
What do you think he means in context of what we're talking about? Purification of what?
Our minds, our
Yeah.
consciousness.
Well, okay, that's true, but let's keep it in perception versus knowledge. Which one is the Holy Spirit doing as far as purification?
Of our perception.
Okay. Why?
Because we've got it wrong.
And so, what is the kindest way to deal with that? He changes and raises our perception so high that while it is not knowledge yet, it's going to be so close to knowledge that what? God can
Do the rest. Bring us
How
over
does
the
the
threshold.
course say it? How does the course say it? God can take the final step.
Mhm.
So the Holy Spirit works with perception, not knowledge. Okay, the Holy Spirit knows, but he purifies our perception to almost reach that so God can take the final step to our awakening.
Well, the whole, we wouldn't need, our
I-
knowledge doesn't need purification.
Correct, right.
Yeah.
So a lot of course students think that the purpose of the Holy Spirit is to awaken us. But my understanding is that the Holy Spirit's function is to raise our perception so high. The Holy Spirit is preparing us for the awakening.
Yeah,
And go ahead there.
I
Sorry.
was just going to say, if you have to think about it, then it's not true knowledge. True knowledge is just, it just is. You don't think about it. You're just absorbed into it.
There is no other way. It's
No,
not
right,
dual. So what's there to question? You see?
right.
How are
Well,
we doing?
but like you're saying is the spiritual perception is we're perceiving what we think it will be like once we're part of that knowledge. And
Perceiving truly now.
right, and spirit guides us in our spiritual perception, points us in the right direction.
Yes, to purify it, to raise it so high that the transfer can occur without conflict.
Right.
You see, God won't attack us. Why? Because God is love. God does not attack. How can it attack and be what it is? Do you see the integrity there?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Isn't the plan of salvation a beautiful plan?
Yeah.
All right, so we're up to Joni. Hey, Joan, are any questions? How are we doing with you, Joan, on this?
No, that explained that very well.
All right, good deal. We are on, I'm trying to finish this section tonight before we go on to section 4. Joan, paragraph 5 of section 3.
Paragraph 5. The Bible tells you to know yourself or to be certain. Certainty is always of God. When you love someone, you have perceived him as he is, and this makes it possible for you to know him. Until you first perceive him as he is, you cannot know him. While you ask questions about him, you are clearly implying that you do not know God. Certainty does not require action. When you say you are acting on the basis of knowledge, you are really confusing knowledge with perception. Knowledge provides the strength for creative thinking, but not for right doing. Perception, miracles, and doing are closely related. Knowledge is the result of revelation and induces only thought. Even in its most spiritualized form, perception involves the body. Knowledge comes from the altar within and is timeless because it is certain. To perceive the truth is not the same as to know it.
Comments there, my friends? All right. Deep.
Yeah, paragraph 6 says certainty does not, I mean, sentence 6, certainty
Yes.
does not require action.
Yeah,
And that reminds me of I need do nothing. It explains the I need do nothing very clearly.
I can just be
Yeah.
and let the experience evolve, and it will be a certain an approximation to me in my realm, if you will, of perception was a week or two ago with the solar eclipse. How long has that occurred without fail, no matter what we've done?
Right.
Okay, now that's certainty, right? What do I have to do relative to that process?
Nothing.
nothing.
Observe it.
Experience it, watch its creativity, its splendor, its wonder, how that all it just is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was our intent, was to enjoy it, not to start making up stuff. All right. We're up to D. Or oh yes, if you're ready to read, my dear, are you?
Yes.
Okay, paragraph 6.
Right perception is necessary before God can communicate directly to his altars, which he established in his sons. There he can communicate his certainty, and his knowledge will bring peace without question. God is not a stranger to his sons, and his sons are not strangers to each other. Knowledge preceded both perception and time and will ultimately replace them. That is the real meaning of Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. And before Abraham was, I am. Perception can and must be stabilized, but knowledge is stable. Fear God and keep his commandments becomes know God and accept his certainty.
Any comments here? Is it making sense?
So when God communicates directly to his altar, are we his altars?
Yes.
Okay.
Remember, put this in context, okay? What did we learn from the Song of Prayer? It's an ongoing communication between God and God's creations. Yes? It never stops. However, given free will, you can believe in imaginary blocks. Those imaginary blocks came up, remember back on 103 of the text, it said a strident form of communication arose as the ego's voice. It could not disturb the peace of God, but it could disturb yours. So God's aware that there's this kind of communication interruption in that song of prayer. And he says, my little ones have fallen asleep. And our communication is being interrupted. and I have to wake them up. How am I doing? Paraphrasing stuff.
Mm,
You remember any of this stuff?
yeah.
In the course. And so here we are, Joan, to where he said, right perception is necessary before God can communicate directly to his altars, which was established in his sons. There, he can communicate his certainty again, and his knowledge will bring the peace we're looking for without any more questions. Peace just will be. We don't have to do anything, right? Our only activity and our help is the Holy Spirit, is to remove the blocks that we made up against this state. That strident voice that started blocking our participation in heaven's song. Yes? How am I doing here, Joan, with sentence
Okay.
6? Any other comments or questions? You liking this so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
more
God
you
communicated
understand,
directly to his altars, is that communicating to our consciousness?
his altars, yes. Yeah, let me just offer that I'm in agreement. Any other comments on that? That what Joan about his God's altars and who God's altars are? Creation?
Mhm.
More comments? How about I do paragraph 7?
Okey doke.
Okay.
If you attack error in another, you will hurt yourself. You cannot know your brother when you attack him. Attack is always made upon a stranger. You are making him a stranger by misperceiving him, and so you cannot know him. It is because you have made him a stranger that you are afraid of him. Perceive him correctly so that you can know him. There are no strangers in God's creation. To create as he created, you can create only what you know and therefore accept as yours. God knows his children with perfect certainty. He created them by knowing them. He recognizes them perfectly. When they do not recognize each other, they do not recognize him.
Mm.
Separation, right? Do you see how it's at the bottom of this whole thing? The tiny, mad idea. Just a couple minutes on this. Help me out. Do you ever wonder why the course, that language, the tiny mad idea, isn't more prominent in the course? You know, it's maybe alluded to, but the only real one, the definitive one, chapter 27, you know, that line that says, into eternity where all is one, there arose a tiny mad idea which the Son of God remembered not. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a big deal, isn't it? Do you
Yes.
ever wonder why there isn't a whole chapter called The Tiny Mad Idea? I'm asking.
Well, the whole book is about the tiny mad idea because
But
it's
it-
about perception.
But it doesn't just use even that language very per se. There, and yet, to me, the tiny mad idea created this whole need for salvation.
Well, I just looked it up. I don't have the ability to look it up in this version, but in the new
Yes.
edition, it's mentioned 26 times. That's a lot, actually.
Where do you
These man believe what?
uh, where? Like how many is it in the work?
So
In the
doesn't list it that way. The tiny man idea, laughing away the tiny man idea, and its cause is the only tiny man idea. Both are in chapter 27. There's a mention of it in chapter 19. It is the result of a tiny man idea of corruption which can be corrected. Another place in 27. Work lesson 187 says, and sacrifices an idea so mad that sanity dismisses it at once.
yeah,
So that's a reference to it. Lesson 54 says, even the mad idea of separation had to be shared before it could form the basis of the world I see.
so
Lesson
you don't have
45.
to obviously do all 26.
Okay, but it's
Understand.
mentioned more than we realize.
Yeah, and yet it's dispersed. But to me, that's the whole problem. And I wonder why Jesus didn't do a chapter on it or a section on it. Because we talk about it all the time. I mean, not that that's a criteria for Jesus's writing. It's just something I kind of wondered about because to me, it's so important to understand. It says this whole mess arose from the tiny mad idea. So I won't belabor that anymore. Any comments from you guys on paragraph 7 or indeed this whole section before we close out this part of our study tonight?
Well, the part about your brother, it really intimates that we all are one. Our brother is us. And
You know, and if we could raise our perceptions closer to what is the truth,
mm,
nobody in their right mind would attack themselves.
mm. Yeah, but to see your brother, we can't be seeing our brother's ego. We have to see who they really are, which is a good trick sometimes.
You know, and as Jesus says here, to attack someone, you got to first make them a stranger because nobody in their right mind would attack themselves. You'd have to be insane like cancer to attack yourself.
Mhm.
Helpful, Joan?
Yeah, well, it kind of talks easy and does hard.
Tell me what you mean by that a little bit more.
Oh, I guess some of this egoic behavior, it's in some people, it's so tempting to see them as bad or wrong or whatever, rather than seeing them as a brother and part of yourself.
Well, why are they acting so bad or wrong?
Why are they acting so bad? Because they think they are an ego.
Because they don't know any better either. If they knew who they were, that would stop that other behavior right away. Nobody in their right mind attacks themselves. That's not church. That's common sense. But brothers and sisters, if they don't know that, it's not that they're bad, it's that they've been deceived. Like me. And I thank God for the opportunity to begin to see beyond the deception like we're all doing, right?
Mhm.
So love would have us share that freedom. Who wouldn't want to relieve suffering? Because to relieve their suffering is to relieve our own. Who's with me or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked your example of autoimmune diseases.
Yeah.
I think you use cancer, but yeah, it's attacking ourselves.
It's, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes no sense because they're killing themselves. They're making themselves suffer ultimately. Anyhow, this is a very simple course. It's not complicated. There is only love. There's only one thing. Makes my life a lot easier to deal with one thing. There's either love or a call for love. Bad.
So what is
call
true
for love.
perception? What's true perception versus knowledge? What's missing in true perception that it's not?
The idea that there can be anything other than love.
But I thought that's true perception, knowing that there's only love. Like what I'm not sure what true perception is.
Okay. Anything other than that, which is what I thought you were asking me.
No.
True perception is when, take a look at lesson 265 right quick.
Okay. $265. Okay.
Read it. Read the title.
Creation's gentleness is all I see.
That's true perception. It's not knowledge.
And what's the difference if that's all I
It's
see?
not when the problem is, I have to, if we're all one, who has to see it? Everybody. It has to be seen as one. That is the function of the Holy Spirit, is to bring this level of perception. Creation's gentleness is all we see.
But wait, so Jesus,
That's the atonement.
that's all Jesus saw, and didn't he reach knowledge? Wasn't he in knowledge?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
really know. I mean, we can talk about degrees and that, but Jesus says in the Course that his inspiration was the Holy Spirit. The same teacher that's in him is in us.
I still don't, I mean, that's all I'm seeing, then I'm seeing it for the whole world. There is no exclusion. If that is all I'm seeing, then
That's
I've
true
taken
perception.
the whole world with me. It is the
That-
whole world.
That's true perception.
So what's the difference between that and knowledge?
The Go ahead, Kathleen.
What I'm seeing is Jesus Jesus got right up against the door where God comes and takes you over into the oneness. And
Yes,
once he transferred over into the oneness, he was no longer Jesus. He was the oneness. So he attained the highest level of levels to get, if you want to say, to get to crossing over into the oneness in his human form.
and I would still debate. I mean, now that we're talking about it,
Mhm.
I'm not sure that Jesus per se is real.
Yeah, he's just consciousness.
So do you see how it's a product of perception? It's
Yeah.
a story to help us achieve the goal. I mean, it was
So Christ's vision is true perception, and Christ's vision is
yes,
true perception.
yes.
So, but what more? So you cannot have you. That's as far as you could go in this realm. You can't have knowledge in this realm
That
and
is
be in this.
correct. I maintain the more we talk about it here, that Jesus is part of perception. It's a story. People
Jesus or
don't-
Christ's vision or Christ is part of. There's a difference
Jesus
between the two.
Christ is an illusion like all other illusions.
Correct.
I would therefore say that Jesus Christ is not in the realm of knowledge.
Right.
Jesus Christ,
Right.
what's his name? David Campbell, talking to the mythologists, talks
Joseph
about
Campbell.
all of Joseph Campbell talks about all of the mythologies, the people that have the stories that have been told to teach us a moral.
So if we were to reach Christ's vision,
We
can
be
know-
in highest perception.
we could no longer be in a body. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, ma'am, I didn't say anything like that.
So
If maybe you're right. I just
no, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
asking. So can we be here and have knowledge? We can't, right? You said we can't.
That's what I'm saying. Let me ask you this. Are there bodies in the realm of knowledge?
No. No.
No.
But I wouldn't be seeing myself as a body. Just it would just be an appearance still.
The fact that I have put on a body means I'm operating in perception.
So isn't that part of the fear then? That people think they'll disappear?
What is the body?
It's an illusion.
The
It's an
body
appearance.
is the fence the Son of God imagines he has placed around himself to separate himself from his self. Remember?
Yes. Yes.
So if I have this container on, this fence, I can't be in knowledge with a fence around me.
But I can be in true perception, you're saying.
Yes, is what I'm saying. Remember my premise? There goes part 2 of our discussion tonight. Remember our premise that the tiny mad idea was God's idea?
Right.
It was the way for us to know ourselves of our own volition. We are different creations, but we're part of one cloth, of one accord, of one purpose. What's the purpose? To extend
To know
God.
who we really are.
So we have to know God to extend God.
We have to know we are God.
Yeah.
So that's knowing, not perception.
And the way that we could truly know is through the hard, quote unquote, lessons of the prodigal son. And when the son came back, he had no more questions about where home was. Let's
Mhm.
go to Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
When she came back home, she had no more questions about where she really belonged.
Yes.
She wouldn't have truly deeply known it without her imaginary adventures to answer her questions. When we're as smart as we are, and when we have free will, there's no end to all the crap we can imagine. I maintain that the Father knew that of his creations and had to build in an opportunity for them to want to buy into this of their own volition, not cause I made them,
Mm-hmm.
literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
So would you agree we spent more time on this than anticipated?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Fine with me.
Yeah, it's fine. It's where we need to,
Explore. Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
It was helpful to me this whole evening. So yeah.
Yeah.
me too. And
You know,
oh, go ahead, dear
I was
Kathleen.
just going to say our conversations are where we're led to go. We don't have to stick to a schedule.
Yeah,
We have to, it's part of the lesson. Wherever we go is part of the lesson we're meant to learn in this time period.
and I'm so gratified because this is exactly the kind of discussion group that I envisioned a year or so ago when we started. And I was listening to black movies last night, and they kept saying, "Can't God do it?" And here we are feeling this experience. It's really real. We gave it over to Spirit, and what a magnificent job, right? It's being done. The other thing, and I'm going to start just wrapping up here, is being experienced course students in particular. I can only imagine that you're called upon in some way to share this material, either by words or actions. So the more you see how this whole thing goes together, the better you'll be able to share it with others in a kind of cogent way. Not that that's required, but brothers and sisters, they say, okay, what's that about? And so
Well, the 12-step programs are based on sharing also.
there are many versions of this curriculum,
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
which is so compelling because Jesus already told me that in the course. I mean, I'm not trying to be selfish. This is not the Course in Miracles, remember? It's a version that you like.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
because of differences, I made many versions of it. Isn't that what love would
Yeah.
do?
Absolutely.
I like that kind of love. You see what I
Mhm.
mean? It shows what it is.
Mm.
But you have to be able to see the big picture of what its goals are and how it's going about it. So engage, let your day unfold without resistance, without grievances, as we've done, for example. And it's valuable. I like it. And I thank you for taking this journey with me, okay?
Mhm.
We're
Thank
going to start wrapping up. Quit while we're ahead here. And any final comments from anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will see you next time then, okay?
Okey-doke. Namaste.
Namaste.
Smiling, you guys. Wait a
Thanks,
minute.
Jim.
Let me get my Zoom thing together. All right. See you next time. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.